Last time on the Investigations series, it appears that there is a small group of individuals unrelated to the original channel trying to keep the group alive. Though I don't expect much from them, I will be keeping an eye out. Who knows, maybe they'll do a better job of it. Well, that comment aged somewhat poorly. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the True YouTube Moderator channel, where I identify problems with the YouTube systems and offer realistic solutions to those issues. In my last video, I talked about the failure of the anti-bot union, and during it I mentioned that someone was trying to revive the movement. This was being done by a user by the name of My Mixed Biscuit, who, like me, did not see the October change to me at the zoo as a proper solution, and had wanted to continue fighting for a proper fix. Despite my dislike of the original group, I saw this as a unique opportunity. What if I tried joining the group undercover and helped steer them in a direction that would maximize their chances of success? Could they achieve what the anti-bot union had failed to do? The short answer is unfortunately no. The long answer, however, is that while I believe they still have the potential to succeed, I also feel they don't really understand how to really do it. What I want to do with this video is to talk about my time within the group and use it to explain what went wrong. My hope is that this information will not only be useful to the group themselves, but perhaps also to anyone else wanting to start their own kind of movement or whatever you want to call it. Though I can't guarantee any of it will actually help them, I do hope that it will at least allow them to reflect on their flaws and perhaps come up with some solutions of their own. Let's get into the story already. I first entered the group on the 28th of November just to have a general look around at what they were doing. And throughout this whole thing, I have been going by the username I Wanna Eat Cake. At the time, the group hadn't done much since they'd been attempting to gain control of the original group's channel and Discord. In theory, this would have been a smart move, as it would mean that they'd already have a following willing to help with group activities, and the subscribers necessary to make sure people were seeing their message. Unfortunately, they were dealing with a bunch of arrogant fools who didn't think there was any need to continue since they'd already saved me at the zoo. So, as you can imagine, this was unsuccessful. Still, I do like where their head was at with it. A few days after I joined, I received a message from the owner, Biscuit, asking some basic questions like how I found them and my time zone. We chatted over a few days, though the time difference made things a little difficult. He was typically on when I was not, and vice versa. My questions were rather basic, just about why they were trying to contact the original group's owner and what their plan was. Biscuit pointed me towards their general plan that they'd written up, which basically summed up as get more members, fix me at the zoo, fix all of YouTube. This was a bit troubling, not so much because the goal seemed unrealistic, but because the plan didn't really explain how they planned to achieve such goals. Not necessarily a problem though, since they were still in their beginning phase, and they were also preoccupied with their current objectives, so it's understandable that they hadn't really thought everything through yet. What did concern me was something that turned up in our discussion, which was this comment saying, "I like your personality, so I'll give you some power if you want." We have literally just met, and none of the questions I'd asked were exactly impressive. Now, regardless of whether it was a moderator role or not, you should always be very careful about giving jobs to people you do not personally know. Now, while I'm having this chat, two noteworthy members joined the group. One is named some random Discord user, yes, that's literally the name, and in an ironic twist, the other is legit Pixel, the moderator who banned me from the original group under a false accusation. And what do you know, they almost immediately start asking for moderator privileges. See what I mean about trust? Since I was feeling a bit petty, I decided I'd send Biscuit a screenshot of Pixel banning me with the message to be careful about giving him power. Not sure if this actually did anything, but I did notice that legit Pixel left the group within a few days after. I'm pretty sure it's just a coincidence though, but make of it what you will. Afterwards, the group announced that they were giving up on trying to contact the original owner and were renaming the group to the Anti-Bot Federation, as well as starting their own YouTube channel. This was a good step forward, and I was interested to see how the group would progress from here. The next thing I did was get into contact with the co-owner named Yeetus regarding data records, because it turns out this group actually has one. That's a good start, but there were two major problems. The first is that after the 8th of December, the record stopped being updated for reasons that will soon become apparent. And second was the fact that this record was never made publicly available to the whole group. So if you looked at it from the outside, it would just appear that this group had no data and was pretty much no better than the original anti-bot union. While discussing said data records with Biscuit, I received another surprise, as he referenced my channel by name as well as my previous video. Now, I'd come into this thinking I would not talk about my channel and content within the group, because I just see that as very rude. But he did tell me to watch the video, so I decided to bring up the fact that I had mentioned the Anti-Bot Federation in said video, and referenced the offer I'd made to help organize a raid. Shortly after that, Biscuit commented on said video saying they'll contact the relevant people and see what they can do, and I waited for a reply on that. It never came, and as far as I know, it was never actually discussed with any of the group members. You'll notice I haven't actually discussed what happened in the group chat much, and that's because nothing interesting really occurred. Mostly it was discussing the bots and theorizing how to combat them, but in essence it was a lot of talking without making any proper plans. But then the group made what I believe to be a fatal mistake. On the 8th of December, the group released a video titled Our Goals, only instead of listing all the stuff I'd previously mentioned about getting rid of all bots from YouTube, the only thing they'd listed was a sub-goal of 1,000 subscribers. Now, I understood that what they meant was that they wanted to recruit more people to help participate in the group's activities. But any small channel would know that 1,000 subscribers is the minimum required for monetization, which meant that for outsiders, it looked like we only wanted to get monetized and then use the channel to make it big without actually trying to fix anything. I immediately questioned this in the group, saying that I was worried it looked like we would just wanted money. Nobody really took it seriously though. Frankly, I should have pushed harder for it to get taken down, cause it might have helped avoid what happened next. When I logged back into the group chat, things were a mess. While I'd been away, random Discord user had decided to invite a bunch of people into the group to raid it, leaving spam comments and insults. The raiders also attacked the YouTube channel through the comment section, which made me believe that the attack was a direct response to the goals video. I won't go into detail about how the group initially reacted, but I will say it wasn't the best. Despite this event, I thought that the group could still be salvaged. So I went and wrote a bunch of slides with text acknowledging the mistake and offering to make peace with the raiders. I figured that any response we got was a win, because if they were open to discussion, we would get some useful feedback. If they weren't, well, they probably didn't have anything useful to say then. It was that simple. Instead, they messed that up too. The whole response part was made secondary to some weird slideshow of who the raiders were, and then they argued with the raiders who visited the comments. So much for trying to make peace. There was still room for redemption. All the group needed to do was to show they were actually trying to do something, not just talk about it. Do one raid on me at the zoo and report some comments. That's all it would have taken. After a few days of messing around, Biscuit finally announced a raid date. I was ready to start live streaming a reporting session alongside them, going after all the spams I could find. Just say the word and I was good to go. The raid got cancelled. Not completely surprising since there weren't many people online for the past few days, but I thought we were just gathering data. Surely we could have done it with only 3 people, right? No, because we weren't gathering data. Apparently, this single raid was somehow intended to get rid of every spammer from me at the zoo at once. Like, I had to check what was being said twice, because clearly I had to be mistaken. Like, it was just ludicrous. Yet I'd understood perfectly. That was what we were supposedly trying to do. Furthermore, there had apparently never been an actual plan on how the raid was supposed to go. We were just doing it because. This was all just very, very frustrating for me. So I basically said, I can't help unless there is a plan, and gave them a week. In that time, they got one new moderator, and then the co-owner disappeared. It was clear that things weren't getting any better, and I was just so done at this point. So I left the group and said my goodbyes to Biscuit on the last day of 2020, explaining my frustrations and wishing them the best. The last thing I said was that I would check back in a month's time, and if the group had improved, I'd consider coming back. Admittedly, I was quite nervous as to how Biscuit would respond, but what I got was a reply of understanding and accepting my decision with grace. That, to me, clearly shows the type of person Biscuit was, and despite my grievances with the group, in the very least I feel like they are deserving of respect. Since this video took much longer than I was hoping, I decided to stop by a bit earlier to see if there was any new developments. In the time I was away, it seems like Biscuit has been recruiting some programmers to make a bot for detecting spam comments on the channel, and has also been advertising the group somewhat, considering there's a whole new list of people I don't recognize. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it at this time, but I can say it's a step in the right direction at least. But that concludes my experience with the Anti-Bot Federation. I have to say, they have many similarities with their predecessor group, but are in many ways better considering they actually have a data record and they're not immediately hostile towards anyone who disagrees with them. Most of the time. I'd say their main problems consist of not really understanding how to create a plan, and when one is created, they don't really have it completely thought through. They're extremely trusting of new people to a problematic degree. They don't really think about how their actions affect the group's image, and the lack of reliable data from their efforts being visible to everyone. Thankfully, these are all things that can be worked on. Now, usually at this point in the video, I'd be talking about how I'd go about fixing their problems and just making things better, but because I have so many ideas, I've decided to write them all into their own Google document. This will be linked in the comments below for anyone to read, and you can add comments if you have any suggestions you want to include. Hopefully these will be helpful to the Anti-Bot Federation and put them on the right path. I will give my final verdict on them though, which is, though they're not very good at the moment, I do think it is worthwhile to at least check them out and keep an eye on their future endeavors. Thank you all for watching, and if you happen to go visiting the Anti-Bot Federation's channel or Discord group, I ask that you please be civil about it. My next video will be mid-February sometime, where I'll be back to talking about current YouTube problems. Hopefully I'll see you there, but until then, have a nice day or night.